joke?
Yeah, big joke.
I'm looking in the mirror like, who the fuck am I? I have no idea who I am.
Well, look in here, fat man.
Venmo. Venmo.
I don't usually do this, to be honest with you. You so cold, Reggie.
Charlie boy!
The ceiling just drops on me.
Come here.
I'm tweeting!
Shut up.
I'm tweeting! I'm tweeting!
Tweet this.
That's an
Where's the
Instagram,
cash?
No couches? Can't we just go right to the drugs?
Oh no.
Does you make your son?
Is that gluten-free?
No, it's got glutens. Hey, Luca. Always good to see you.
Still got my wits about me.
No more round pizza. From now on, we're going square. And there he is, Mr. Fosca.
There's no cheese left.
What do you mean there's no cheese? Yeah, there's snow on the ground. I'm the only one that does the fighting around here, so take your change, Lucy, let's whatever you... Suddenly my heart goes boom, 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 boom.
What's the matter with her?
Daddy, why you doing this to me?
I think we should call Frankie Face.
Let's go right to Frank.
Yeah. Get out of here.
It's unbelievable.
Burger motherfucking pig. How do you like me now?
You forgot those days that we spent together at Astoria Park?
I was with a man body. Like a man body.
Get this fat fuck.
He deserves everything that's coming to him.
So sorry!
I'm not gonna kill you. Please. Catch you later.
Most of us like to watch old movies because we see actors with authentic way of acting, especially when we see the Greek cinema, old Greek cinema, American cinema. And today I have an actor who is himself. He's very authentic on what he does. He's an actor, a comedian, a producer, and many more. I'm here with Greg Kritikos.
How are you, Yanni? It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure to have you here, Greg.
And you had me from old movies.
Well, that's what comes to my mind when I see you, because you have something original. You don't pretend to be. You are what you are, and that's when you act. That's what I get.
Yeah, acting.
Which I think is very important, right?
Yeah, it is. As an actor and a comedian, I mean, acting is reacting. You know, I've taken a couple of classes in the past. You know, but for the most part, I've been told that I'm a natural, and being natural is just being comfortable in your skin, being able to be, just act on pulse at that moment in front of a camera, in front of 100 people, whatever the case. And being that I'm also a comedian. You know, I'm not really, I don't find myself in awkward times like, entertaining people. I just feel right at home. So whether it's in front of the camera, whether it's in a crowd of 500 to 1,000 people, doing stand-up comedy, acting, is like, it just comes natural to me.
Greg Kritikos is a Greek-American.
Yes, born in Athens, Greece.
You were born in Athens, Greece. And
Greece.
you came here when you were a kid.
1971, yes.
7 years old, right?
Yep.
So, was that difficult?
Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, anytime you're leaving your comfort zone and going somewhere where that has challenges, obviously it's going to be difficult. And on my part, growing up in Astoria back in the 70s, when it was Astoria, now it's turned to Astoria, times have changed, whatever. But there were challenging moments, and I couldn't speak English. My father was a very well-known Greek soccer player in Greece. He was born in Aio. He played for Panayalio. And we came to the United States for the American dream. Unfortunately, down the road, we had tragedy. It's something that we'll discuss. But I landed right in Astoria on 30th Avenue, right across the street from St. Joseph's Catholic Church, mostly Irish, German, some Italian descent. And being I was Greek and the outsider, You could bet it had its
It was
challenges.
a different time. Political correctness
Oh,
back then
yeah.
it wasn't something that people knew, right?
No, it was totally different. Yeah, I mean, it was very territorial. People hung out on the corners. They blasted their radios, listening to Zeppelin, The Who, Yes, Pink Floyd. Rock and roll was in the air. The stench of alcohol was all over because everybody loved to drink and hang out on corners. I played a lot of organized sports later on down the road, but when I first got here, there was a lot of bullying. I felt I was full of fear. And fear for me, it could be false evidence appearing real or fuck everything and run. That's what fear spells out. So it had its challenges, and I was full of fear, and I wasn't accepted, back then. Most of the Greeks were going towards Ditmars. So I grew up right in the heart of Astoria on 30th Avenue. Irish, German, Italian Astoria. So.
You said they bully you, right?
Yeah, there was a lot of bullying going on, but it was a way of life. It's not like I had the most, unique story. Everybody got bullied. It was a part of life. You were a young kid, you got beat up, you got slapped around. I was afraid to go to the corner and get milk. I would have to peek to see if none of the neighborhood bullies were around because they got bullied at one point in their lives. So it was part of life, man, bullying.
And was your nickname Hamburger?
Hamburger, yeah. What happened is I mispronounced the word hamburger. I said hamburger. And I hated it because I was tagged hamburger. You see, nicknames are usually a part of your body or something you do that you don't like. That's what a nickname is back in the day. There wasn't too many Ace, Bezwa, Quays, like cool names. Hamburger, Ears, Ripper, Zero. These are some of the nicknames that kids had, And this guy, very well-known guy from the neighborhood, Joe Gugarata, I mispronounced hamburger. I said hamburger. And he was like, hey, there was hamburger, the shoemaker's son.
The Shoemaker's Son, which is a performance as well that you performed here in the Cultural Center.
Yes, on this stage right here, based on the true story of my life, and I do all the characters. So the goal for this one-man show is to make them cry and laugh at the same sitting. So I'm very proud of it. I love it. I mean, we produced it. You were the videographer, obviously. George Fuaxis was one of the producers. Michael Richard Williams was the director. Michael Rockowitz, he did all the sound effects. Alexandros, his last name, I always mix up his last name. Amostianos was the lighting guy, lighting engineer. We did it right here, and I did all the characters.
When was the first time that you made people laugh in public?
In public, very good. So I'm about 6 years old, 6.5 years old, whatever, 5.5, 6, anyway. And I was living in Athens because I was born in Athens, and we would take public transportation, the bus, obviously. And I remember being on the bus one day, and I was always fidgety. As a young kid, I was always hyper. I was a little kid. That's what little kids do. And my mother was like, be a good boy, be a good boy. Stop moving around, stop moving around. And I didn't like that because there was another little kid next to me doing the same thing. So at one point I said to her, well, why are you picking on me? She goes, because you're a little boy and you should listen. I go, he's a little boy. Why don't you talk to him? Let's see if he listens. And the bus erupted in laughter because he wasn't a little boy, he was a little person.
So he was a dwarf, right?
Dwarf, midget, little person, whatever it was.
Sure,
and the whole bus exploded in laughter. My mother was like, oh, she got so embarrassed. I was like, all right, well, I don't know, it just happened, but whatever you want to call it. But that explosion of laughter, to this day, I could still hear it.
And then you came here and you were the shoemaker's son, right?
Yeah, well, my dad was a professional soccer player in Greece. He played for the national team Panayalio in the 40s, very well known. He always claimed, he had bad timing because they didn't pay the athletes back then. They had parties for them, they had parades whenever they would win. So basically, after his career, he became a shoemaker. Took the art of shoemaking in Athens, and then from there, he decided to pull a geographic, come to the United States for the American dream, like a lot of people would, So he came to the United States and he opened up a local shoe repair shop on 30th Avenue, and hence the Shoemaker's Son, which is based on my one-man show and also a production that I'm working on called Stories from Astoria. That, the Shoemaker's Son, is the title that I'm using for a feature film, and also the name of the pilot for a TV series called Stories from Astoria. And so we left Greece to come to the United States for the American dream. Unfortunately, we had tragedy. My mom was hit by a drunk driver when I was 12 years old. And as a result of that accident, they had to amputate her leg to keep her alive. And
For a kid, that was a traumatic experience, right?
It was a dramatic experience. It was a dramatic experience for all of us. My father, it was even more when we found out that the guy that hit her was a drunk driver and he had no insurance. And, with no insurance, unfortunately, in this country, nothing could happen. And I remember my father, really going through a lot. Around the holidays, I remember, he had dropped me off. I was living with another lady, which she's a character in my one-man show, Betty Plakopitis. Lady was an angel. I stayed with her during the holidays when my mom was in the hospital. And I was with my dad one night, and the phone rang. I think it was like 9:30 p.m., 10 o'clock, I'm not sure. But I heard one of the most frightening sounds I've ever heard as a kid. And that sound was my dad going into the bathroom, and he turned the water faucet on, and I heard him crying. I heard the emotional outburst, tears. He couldn't hold it back. They contacted him to tell him to rush to the hospital because they had transferred veins from one leg to the other. They were desperately trying to save the leg, obviously. And what happened is one of the veins bursted, popped, and gangrene was spreading fast. And my father had to shoot over to the hospital and sign paperwork that would allow them to amputate my mom's leg. So I remember that sound, that noise, when my father got that phone call. I remember all that.
That's difficult times. And then, how was your life? How did your life go after that?
Everybody's life changed. My father's changed, mine changed. People in the neighborhood that used to bully me, pick on me, they heard about it, and they kind of felt bad for me, and that kind of inspired. I was angry because now you're feeling sorry for me because my mom lost her leg. So there was mixed emotions, but it was challenging. It was very challenging. I mean, losing a whole limb is, it's changed everybody's life. Listen, growing up in Astoria, at a young age, we came to the United States, we immigrated here, but my mom never wanted to come here. My dad was fed up. He wanted to come here for a better life. My grandfather never gave my mother his blessing, my mom's father, to say, go with my blessing. He kind of told her not to go. So my mom was torn between two worlds. He told her, don't go. And my mom had to go because obviously she went wherever her husband went, my father. But there was always that bickering, that arguing, that screaming. She wasn't happy here all the time. And my father had told her, he said, let's stick around for 5 years. Let's see what can happen. And if nothing happens, we go back. Hence, on the 5th year, my mom got hit by a drunk driver. Now she doesn't want to go back to Greece.
And you're stuck here, right?
And yeah, stuck here, if that's a good way of putting it, stuck here on 30th Avenue in Astoria.
Okay, and but after that you had some bad influences, right? Didn't you?
Well, I mean...
Or was you the bad influence to others?
Well, good way of putting it. Growing up with challenges, and it scars you. And at least me, anyway. I had resentments, I was angry, there was a lot of things. But when I was introduced to alcohol, I'm a sober addict alcoholic, 13 and a half years, God's grace. I remember picking up a drink when I was around 18 years old because that was the normal thing to do back in the 80s and, in the 70s. Growing up in Astoria in the 70s, like I said, the stench of alcohol was everywhere. Everybody was drinking, partying, going down Astoria Park, driving their cars at the time when you could drive down Astoria Park. Now everything's changed. And alcohol was in the air. It was normal. If you didn't drink, you were suspect. You were not normal. So I remember the first time I drank, I got hammered. I got drunk because it silenced the noise in my head. It's something good. I really liked it. Now, the first time I tasted alcohol, I was online as a Greek Orthodox. We drink the wine.
Yeah, with the Holy Communion.
Holy Communion, yes. I tasted it. I was like 5 years old, and I went back online. And my mom, what are you doing? I go, that tasted good. I want some more.
So you had a predisposition to alcohol.
Well, whatever. I tasted it.
You
Whatever.
really liked it.
I never forgot that taste. I like that taste, you know.
But you drank a little more, right?
Oh, I drank a lot more. I drank my brains out. I drank as a sober alcoholic, an addict, and, you know, alcoholic. I call it alcohol because you have a hole in you and you try to fill it up with anything. I drank every bottle, every booze out there, and I drank my brains out because it's a progressive disease, and I started drinking and drugging, and then from drinking, the gateway of whatever you want to call it, you know, I picked up other things, substances, and I was introduced to cocaine as well. So I'm a sober alcoholic addict. From cocaine, it escalated to smoking it, freebase, and then crack cocaine eventually. So March 2nd of 2011 is my sobriety date. I hit rock bottom in my life. I spent 7 days in detox in East Rockaway. 7 days of detox. They had me on Librium. I was totally lost, confused, full of fear. And then from there, I spent 3.5 months of rehabilitation. So I'm alumni from Phoenix House. I went to St. John's East Rockaway to detox because there's only 2 drugs that you could actually die of withdrawals. Alcohol and benzos, which is a product that they use in certain drugs. So when you withdraw from them, you could go into seizure. So they had me on that. I had hit bottom. I was 385 pounds. I had neuropathy, diabetes, nerve damage, sleep apnea, bad cholesterol, good cholesterol, everything under the bus, irregular heartbeat. I had a lot of stuff. I was 385 pounds. And I use that in my material as a comedy because I like to laugh with life, not at life. So when I say I was the fattest crackhead in New York City, people like to laugh because when you think of crackheads or cocaine addicts, they're usually skinny. Me, you got to give me some cocaine and maybe a cheeseburger deluxe, and I feel better.
And then you ended up in jail as well, right?
88 at the time. I graduated because not only was I involved in distribution of cocaine, I ended up using it as well. So it's funny because I always hated my fractions, Yanni. I didn't like math, but I learned my fractions in the streets. I found out what an eighth, a quarter of a gram, an ounce. I found all that out. But when you get good at it, they reward you by putting you on a beautiful island surrounded by walls and water, Rikers Island. Uh-huh. So in 1988, I was convicted, 2 felony convictions, and I ended up doing 6 months and 5 years probation. And that was a hard time to be in Rikers, by the way, in 1988, because there was a lot of racial tension going on in New York. You had the Howard Beach incident. You had the Bernard Goetz vigilante incident. So if you were white, you had problems.
So when you were a kid, you had problem with the white people. When you were in jail, you had with some other people, right? You had problem with some other people.
Yes, there was a very colorful picture, which with a lot of colorful pictures comes a lot of colors like black and blues.
So what was more difficult, selling drugs or selling bad jokes?
Selling bad jokes. Again, when you have good product, it sells itself.
Okay.
So there's not really a lot of work to cocaine. If you have a good product, it just sells itself. Selling bad jokes, it offends me. I want to make sure people laugh. They understand the joke. So hopefully up until now, I've been kind of blessed. It's been good on both sides.
Okay, but
I don't want to sell bad jokes.
But the jokes are sometimes a little bit, like they're a little bit.
A joke is a premise of a joke is when you open up the joke and you start explaining what direction the punchlines are going to come. Not everybody identifies jokes. Mm-hmm. I've said a joke that I was married to a Gemini, and I turned around and one of the jokes is that I was married to a Gemini. She caught me cheating on her with herself. People don't get that joke sometimes. They have to explain that the Gemini is the twin. There's 2 of them. Mm-hmm. So, hence, So, Idaho. I was in Idaho performing, touring the country, and I said, you never hear the word Idaho in New York City. The only time you hear it is when a prostitute is confessing. I said,
Yeah, that's a joke. That is maybe that can be thought of as a bad joke in terms of, the context is a little bit, like provocative or whatever.
it's very simple. If you spell out the word Idaho, it's, and when I said that joke one time, I remember that you can hear a needle drop. It's one guy in the back. I remember I always say this. I use it in my material. He yelled out, and I quote, "Oh, Idaho!" And the whole room exploded. And I said, "Thank you for explaining the joke."
Okay, and then you went through some difficult times.
Yes, Rikers Island was difficult for me. I, 2 felonies.
But it takes a strong character to go through that, right?
Yeah, it does. Because after Rikers, my life got worse. My relationship with my mother and father wasn't as good. And I felt guilty. A lot of things had taken place in my life. My life story, based on, with the people I grew up with is not a, I don't have the worst story. There's always a story that's worse than mine. But, in my life, drug sales, prison, murder was involved, not me personally, I never murdered, but friends of mine, a couple of them were murdered, so you take that all into the mix. And sometimes we want to forget these things. And unfortunately, a good way of doing it is drinking. And I drank my brains out. And
you also got together with some other Greek kids.
Yes,
right?
yes. I started hanging out with some good, colorful Greek friends with very weird nicknames. They used to call me Tretch, short for treacherous. Then you had Nick the Greek, God rest his soul, he passed away. Steve Tank, Brizola, Kamala, the Devil, Popeye. We had all different types of names. All of us, we had nicknames. But for the most part, we were Greek. We hung out on the Astoria, 30th Avenue, Steinway Street. A lot of guys refer to us as the Steinway Boys. And back in the 80s, we had cars, good looks, money, jewelry, and with all that, women, and we were characters.
And when did you start comedy, like stand-up comedy? When did you really start it?
Okay, so March 2nd of 2011, I got sober. Like I said, I spent 7 days in detox, 3.5 months of rehabilitation. Within that time, from March, April, May, June, in July, before I got sober, I used to hang out at a bar on 31st Avenue, and I was 385 pounds. I was sniffing coke, smoking crack, whatever. There was a bartender that took a liking to me, and when I came back out, after rehab and detox, I had lost some weight. I seen her, and she said to me, "Greg," she goes, "Where you been?" I said, "Well, I changed my life, She goes, "You're sober?" I said, "Yeah, I'm sober." She goes, "You lost weight?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Greg, how would you feel about getting on stage and doing comedy?" I said, "Oh my God, here we go again." So I always reference that to a part in a movie called Goodfellas where Joe Pesci, is told by Ray Liotta, he goes, "Oh, you're funny." And he goes, "Funny how? What am I, a clown? What am I, this, that?" People used to say I'm funny, and I hated that.
You used to react like Joe Pesci, right?
Well, I didn't act like Joe Pesci because actually I was doing that before the movie Goodfellas came out.
Yes.
So I'm not saying that they stole my idea, but whenever people said I'm funny, I was like, I don't feel fucking funny. I don't know what the fuck funny is. Now, hence, many years later, I know that comedy comes from pain. That I understand that. But I got sober, and she said to me, she goes, "Greg, how would you feel about getting on stage?" And I don't know what she did. She worked her magic because I never seen her again. Here's this person, I'm bartending, she comes into my life, we meet a little, I leave, I get sober, I come back, she puts me on stage and she leaves. I've never seen her again, ever again. I really believe that this person, it was my angel, whatever you want to call it. Because of her, I'm where I am today. So she said to me, "How would you feel about getting on stage?" I said, "I don't know, whatever." And she puts me on a Friday night, 8 o'clock at New York Comedy Club. And the show was produced by Clayton Fletcher, very well-known comic. And I went up there and I improv the whole thing. I just started talking about how, my life had turned to shambles, drinking, and how I rearranged people's menus around because, I would order a gyro and they would be like, lettuce, tomato, and onions. I'm like, no, put some mozzarella cheese on that. A gyro, mozzarella cheese, cheddar cheese, sausage. So I was eating a lot. To get to 385 pounds, you have to eat a lot. Anyway, so I talked about that on stage. I kind of improv it. I just went up there and I started talking, whatever. And they put me on check time, which check time, if you know anything about comedy, everybody gets a check all one shot. So professional comedians have been known to struggle during check time because no one's really paying attention to the act. They're paying attention to their check. So I was on stage and I'm doing my thing and people are laughing, and at the end of the show, the producer says to me, "Oh my God," he goes, "that was the first time you're ever on stage?" I said, "Yeah, it's the first time." He goes, "Congratulations, you're going places." I said, "I sure am. I'm going back to Astoria."
And since then, you act, you do stand-up comedies, right?
Since then, after that show, I picked up the pen. I used to love writing when I was a young kid. After my mom got hit by a drunk driver, I put the pen down, I picked it back up, and I started writing. I wrote a couple of synopses about movies. I wrote ideas that I have about movies. I started writing more comedy and stuff. And I started writing. I didn't get back on stage right away. What I did is I started writing. I started writing this movie called Ticket to Heaven. And I was talking to a director by the name of Anthony Felton, very old gentleman that was involved in a lot of big productions back in the day. He worked with Peter Falk. So one day I'm carrying a briefcase. I see him and we have coffee, and I pull out some pictures of me, Steve Tank, Nick the Greek, Pizzola, Kamal, all of us, all black leather coats and everything. He goes, "Is this Ticket to Heaven?" I said, "No, this is my friends." He goes, "They're not actors?" I go, "No, they're just a regular picture." He's like, "Wow, you should write about that." And I started writing, and there's the birth of Stories from Astoria.
You also acted in movies, right?
Yes, I have. I've been in numerous movies. I've been in the Pleasure Principle. I also wrote and produced and starred in my own movie that I wrote called Tomorrow. It was originally called Charlie Boy. Now it's called Tomorrow's Today, which that movie, there was a lot of stuff going on. The original director was Sean Young. Sean Young has worked with Jim Carrey, Gene Hackman, Kevin Costner, a very famous woman back in the 80s. And I got to meet her talking, and I asked her if she would be interested in directing Charlie Boy, and she agreed. And something took place. She had brought this other DP editor down, and it didn't work out. And she got mad, and she ended up stealing the laptops. It's all over the news. If you Google Greg Kritikos and Sean Young, you'll read the whole article, everything. Made on Channel 4, Channel 11. We were blasted all over the news. But in that movie is also Kelly LeBrock, that played Lady in Red with Gene Wilder. Very well-known, famous actress. Also Weird Science. And the famous Burt Young that played Paulie in Sylvester Stallone Rocky movies. So Tomorrow's Today Charlie Boy, it was the original title, / Tomorrow's Today, you had three very, very famous actors, all very well known back in the 80s and 90s. And I wrote it, produced it, and I'm starring in it also. It's on Amazon Prime, Tomorrow's Today.
You also played and produced some TV series, right?
Yes. So I shot I shot a sketch. I like sketch comedy, Yanni, as you know. And I wrote a sketch about an angry pizza guy named Nunzio, where this annoying hipster comes in and he asks all these stupid questions, and the pizza guy's very angry. And one of the lines was, "Listen, kid, my pizzeria's been around before your dad's dysfunctional sperm knocks up your politically correct mother." And then there's another line where the guy says, "But I'm a vegan." I go, "I don't care if you're Venezuelan." So this sketch went crazy viral on the internet. We had close to 18 million views on different sites. And I was working with this producer called Theodore Angelis, and his cousin is Robert Downey Jr. Very well, obviously, Iron Man. And he had come to see my comedy show with Robert Downey Jr.'s sister. They saw me do my stand-up, and him and I built a little bit of a relationship. He saw the sketch, and he couldn't believe it. He's like, "This is hysterical." So he showed the sketch to another gentleman by the name of Michael Richard Williams that you know very well. And Michael and I sat down, we started talking, and it turns out that his production company, Catch a Ball Productions, picked up The Slice, Greg the Greek, and now it's called The Connie Show, which we shot for 5 days at a pizzeria called Guardio's on 30th Avenue in Astoria, 5 days. They picked it up, legitimate pilot, Tina Tanza, Noah Forrest. The executive producer on that, one of them is George Fuaxis, which is my co-producer now on Scarred Angels, and we're working together, Stories from Astoria. He's from Hardwired Films, I'm from Church Productions. And we shot 5 days, and it was funded by Catchable Productions, and you're editor on that as well, and you're doing the color corrections on that. And it's based on that same pizza guy with anger management issues that now we gave him a heart. We gave him a girlfriend, we gave him a situation, we gave him whatever. So that's what the Connie Show is about. And his name is Connie Spire and Nunzio, the original character, but it's basically the same person. But now the Connie Show is an up and alive TV series that we had the pilot, and now we're writing 10 episodes.
And we the Greeks are involved in food business, so I'm sure you had many friends who were involved in food business, and you also shared their experiences, and you went to their restaurants,
Yeah,
right?
because Greeks are very angry at times. So I'd go to their restaurants, I would get an idea, because, you know, I mean, listen, it's funny you said that, because the Jerky Boys back in the day, they would call and prank people. I don't know if you're familiar with the Jerky Boys.
Yeah.
Anyway, so when I was a kid, I used to do the same thing. I just never recorded it. I should have recorded it. So I would call places, and you could see people are angry at times, you know. So this guy, Connie, the Connie Show, he's a similar type of person. He's fed up with the neighborhood. He doesn't like what's taking place these days. He's very angry, you know. And but a lot of Greeks that own venues, yeah, they're very, like, you know, very short-tempered.
So that inspired you a little bit, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you had it in you, but
Yeah, I had it
also
in me. I mean,
you got
listen,
a little bit of influence, right?
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, I used to call this fruit store, and I used to ask the guy all questions. You know, I would ask him about fruits if he had, and he'd be like, "We're a fruit store. Of course we have watermelon."
Are they big? Are they small? Did you ask like?
I have one called the matzo balls, which is really funny. And, you know, I was questioning the matzo balls. I was like, "The matzo balls, are they kind of rubberish? What color are the matzo balls?" And the matzo is a Jewish ball. I go, "Okay, yeah." And I go,
kosher or what?
I asked him, I go, "Is it kosher?" And she goes, "What is it?" Starts laughing. I go, she goes, "Oh my God, you're asking me if it's kosher matzo balls." I go, "No, I just want to know, because, like, you know, if they're round, they're soft, because my grandmother doesn't have teeth, so she's going to be eating the balls." So the prankster was always in me, but all that, but everything comes together, yes. So the Connie Show about the angry guy has a lot to do with experiences that I've been through with people. So.
And then you also produced Scarred Angels, right?
Scarred Angels, which I'm very excited to talk about, because you're the DP, obviously, and the editor once again. And, you know, you being the DP, you shot with an amazing lens. I love the color. I love everything about Scarred Angels. Very excited about Scarred Angels, that we're going to be editing it. We are editing it. We're close to about 80% with the storyboard. Then we're going to do the sound and, you know, color correction, all that stuff. And that one I have high hopes for, because we're going to put it in film festivals across the country. We are going to bring it to cons. We're going to do all that. And it's based about, I wrote it about two guys. One guy was raised by a foster home. They were both raised in foster homes, but the one guy, Punchy and Lippy are the characters. Punchy was very angry because, you know, his foster father kind of abused him mentally in all types of ways. And later on, they connect in life, these Punchy and Lippy, and they go after the fat man. And it's an interesting story, hence Punchy and Lippy, the names. But I will tell you this, the reason it's Punchy and Lippy is because they always played gin together when they were kids. And every time Punchy would lose, he would punch Lippy right in the lip. Hence Punchy and Lippy. So that movie, obviously right now, we are in storyboard editing and color correction and sound, and you're doing all that with me. And yeah, very exciting times.
It's a dark movie.
Yes.
But it makes us laugh at the same time.
Yeah, because I have that in me. As a comedian, I love the dark comedy. I really do at times, you know. And the character of the Foster character, played by Don Sill, the diamond specialist, played by Benny Rizzuti. Chrissa Petridou is in it. Angela Foskolos is in it. She plays Maria. We have a wonderful cast. We really do. Again, George Fuaxis is one of the producers. Michael Richard Williams was there also. You know, he did his part as far as directing. You know, it's the story that I really like, and I enjoy telling the story because as a filmmaker, I'm sure you will know, it's all about storytelling. And when you could piece it together, you know, I take pride in it, and I'm really excited about Scarred Angels. So between Connie and Scarred Angels, even though they're on opposite ends, somehow they do meet in the middle somehow, if you think about it. You know,
They
the
meet
darkest thing.
at the point that's called Greg Kritikos.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. That's a good way of looking at it.
And that is, and they meet because you are yourself. You don't play somebody else. I mean, you play somebody else, but you play it in your own way, in your own authentic
The way I visualize it, like when
Yeah.
I shot The Pleasure Principle, that was totally. I shot the moose. I forget. I was in Florida shooting another movie. I played different characters, you know, in my past, in past productions. You know, one of the things that I love about the Connie Show is that I do play that anger person, and I do have anger in me, obviously. But Scarred Angels, there's parts of the movie that I really have to go deep into psychological vision, in a comedic way, obviously. Well, hopefully when they see it, they'll know what we're talking about, you know. But again, like I said, acting is reacting to what the circumstances is calling for, and you know, whatever it is. I love acting. I've been told I'm a natural. You know, I have other ideas and I have other roles that I'm looking forward to playing in, you know. And
But you also want to play Greg Kritikos, right?
well,
In terms of the Shoemaker's Son, the Greeks from Astoria, I mean, stories from Astoria.
Stories from Astoria. The goal here is I'm
You're
writing.
gonna play yourself, right, in your
well,
life
I'm not.
too.
I'm not.
To some extent.
Well, you know, what I was thinking about doing on that one, and George Fuaxis, my co-producer, was telling me, you know, he said, Greg, you know, you should definitely, you know, play yourself in the future. And I don't know. I mean, this is a timepiece, Yanni. So we're going to need to get a little hamburger. We're going to need to get a little young, early 20-year-old, and then tie him up with the end. Would I like to play the part of the last part of the person that hits rock bottom, the person that's looking in the mirror, not knowing who he is, and crying, coming down?
Something that you felt yourself, right?
Yeah, that's something.
Back in the days.
Exactly, but again, it's like when I cross that road, I'll see. But I'm not. It's not like etched in stone that I have to be in it. My goal is writing it, producing it. You know what I mean, and hopefully directing an episode or two. Yeah, I want to direct.
And it's very interesting that Greek Americans are quite prosperous in New York, and some of them are very prosperous, and they can help produce such things because many other nationalities have already.
They've done it. They've done the gangster thing. The Italian, the Irish, the Latino. They've not yet really touched on Greeks. So when I started doing this and I was networking with people, somebody said, "Give me an elevator pitch. Give me a pitch." Because The Sopranos, it was about a captain in an organized crime family seeing a shrink. That's a no-no. Nobody's supposed to know these things because it's a sign of weakness. So now in stories, what is the story? The ultimate story is that it is a redemption story, but it's not a feature. It's a series. So down the road, whatever. But the ultimate thing is that, you know, the pitch that I used for Stories from Astoria is the little rascals grow up to be Greek gangsters.
Something that
Something
nobody
different.
touched.
Nobody.
And unfortunately, this is a problem with the Greek American community that we don't document the past of the
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
And things go by, and we have so many people and so many interesting things to talk about. And we haven't done that with the Hellenic American Project Hub with Dr. Nicholas Alexiou. I work with him to do some such things but it's also good to do it in terms of movies and in terms of series.
Yeah.
Because these are unique things, and it's very bad if they go away unnoticed, right? And,
Yes.
but with doing movies, doing series, people will be able to see these
Yeah.
things and learn history from the people who lived it. And
Absolutely. And, again, like I said in the beginning of the show, we came to the United States like the majority of the families. We came here for the American dream. Unfortunately, we had tragedy. My mom getting hit by a drunk driver, and it changed all of our lives. So there are different challenges that people face in life. It's not all fine and dandy. You have these people, they come here, and it's a great story. It's like, wow, guy started working, and the next thing you know, he makes a decision, he's in business, and the business flourishes. Like the old saying, it's better to be lucky than it is to be successful, obviously. And people have benefited financially from a lot of things. But there are a lot of families that come here, and they don't have the American dream. They suffer. They go through a lot of stuff. And that's what I'm touching up on, And part of it being a redemption story, because I've hit rock bottom in my life. So the character, he's going to show how he had to go through all this to come out to the other side.
and it can inspire people on how to do that,
Absolutely.
right?
Inspiration is one of the most important things in my life today as a comedian. And I do a lot of motivational speaking when it comes to alcoholism and drug addiction. When I tour the country, I'm always I spoke at Lake Erie College on the disease of alcoholism and drugs, and the addictive personality. Everybody's addicted to something, Johnny. No matter what it is, whether it's gym, working out. Sex, alcohol, too much work. Too much cleaning. Everybody, the addictive personality. Balance is the most important word in my life, in my vocabulary today. Balance. But the people that are sick and suffering, these are the people that I'm hoping to touch in my life, because if I could do it, anybody could do it.
That's mηδέν άγαν, as our great ancestors, the Greeks, used to
Right.
say. Μηδέν άγαν, that means nothing in excess.
Nothing in excess.
So that was one of the biggest sayings that you
Wow.
could see when you would go to Delphi.
Right.
You would see mηδέν άγαν, which means
Nothing
in excess.
Nothing in excess.
And also know thyself, which is know yourself.
I found myself at 48, so I can identify with that. Again, there are people that go through a whole lifetime not knowing who they are.
It's like you have it in your DNA, right? The Greek, the two basic Greek sayings, the two basic Greek ideas. You really feel it coming out, right? And
Yeah, I do. And you know what? Like me as a comedian, growing up with my mother that didn't speak English, she always spoke Greek, and communicating with her was like, it was insane. She would tell me, go across the street and get me that bread that I like, and if they don't have it, don't buy it. I'm like, how am I going to buy it if they don't have it, Ma? And then the creative side is like the black bread that she liked, So as a creative person in writing, I use the word pumpernickel. Pumpernickel is a type of bread. So I've used it in comedy show, and my mother would say to me, "Piena penadi, can mo pares to psomi, get me the bread, the pupunico." I go, "Pupunico?" "Yeah, pupunico." I go, "No, Ma, pumpernickel." Pupunico. No, pupunico means Nicky shitting. That's pupu and nico. That's what that is. So when I use these things, the laughter, the comedy, it all ties in together. You know what I mean?
you used to make your mother laugh, right?
My mother used to laugh. I've seen my mother laugh a lot, but she also got very angry at me as a kid. My father had a very wild sense of humor. He had a very dark side to him, my father.
So maybe you got it from him, right?
I think I did. My father, one time my father, if you went by the afternoon, like 2 o'clock, and you walked by the shoe store, my father was on the chair.
Sleeping.
Because that's what Greeks do in the afternoons. He just didn't close the store. He would keep it open, but he would take a nap, because in Greece, they take naps in the afternoons, right?
Yeah.
So,
Sometimes, yeah.
Well, the majority. Sometimes they don't open up after the afternoon. They close, and that's it. They're done.
Yeah.
Anyway, so my father wouldn't close. He would just take a nap. So you walked too bad. But his friends, they would all get together at the shoe store. They would talk sports, politics, and church. 3 things that you should stay away from, because, Greeks, all they like to do is scream and fight and yell. So sometimes people would come in the afternoon. My father was taking a nap, and I happened to be in the store with him. And I've seen, like, it's like disturbing because he like, yes, can I help you? Like, he doesn't want to take it. So this woman one time walks in. She was excessively heavy. She was a heavy woman, pretty heavy, big. Like I use in my comedy, Charles in large, Charles. So she pulls out these 2 slippers, shoes, sandals, and they were like destroyed, mangled, nothing left. And my father takes the sandals and looks at them and goes, "These shoes are destroyed." She says, "Yeah, but they're my favorite ones." He's like, "Yeah, I know, but it is not worth to fix. If you fix now, it costs too much money to fix. You better off buy new ones." She goes, no, they're my favorite ones. I really like them. He goes, "They're your favorite ones. If they were your favorite ones, why you don't bring early before they were destroyed?" She goes, "Because I forget. I would forget." He goes, "Yeah, but you don't forget to eat though."
So even the lady had a little bit of sense of humor, but your father took it to the extreme, right?
He always took it to the extreme.
Back in the days, it was better to do jokes. Right now, people get upset and.
Oh God, yeah, times have changed. Everybody's offended. Everybody's sensitive. You know, as a comedian,
too much sensitivity, right?
I will never stop being me. You know, when I started working, I did A.G. White, good friend of mine. He said, "Greg, have fun," and he put me on Caroline's. The first time I ever did Caroline's was a high for me. And A.G. White was part of P. Diddy, Bad Boys of Comedy, Showtime at the Apollo, and he said to me, "Greg," he goes, "be yourself, man. Have fun." And when he said that, I kind of like, you know, and also Mark DeBeo, he's another comedian that I grew up with. You know, he always said, "Greg, never change, man. Be who you are." So when I'm on stage, Yanni, and you see me act, you see me do some stand-up, maybe, I think, I don't know. I like to be myself. I'm in your face, raw comedy, you know what I mean? And
well, you look, you like to be yourself at all times.
yeah, I mean, but
I never saw you pretending.
Well, that's good. You know what? Well, you know, I like that. It's a compliment to me because with me, you know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
You know, and with you too. I noticed that about you. You're always that same person. You know, I'm not going to hide. I'm not going to put this shield over me and then I'm going to pull it up and say, "Surprise!" You know,
Yes.
You know, what you see is what you get. And, you know, as a comedian, I kind of take that and I run with it because when people come to my shows, they know what they're expecting.
And you also did a show right here in the Cultural
Right in
Center,
here,
right?
called The Shoemaker's Son, that you videotaped, and you did a great job. And we're still editing that. We put it to the side for now, based on my true life story, a theatrical, which is it's a theatrical show, and it's a one-man show. And when people ask me what is this, give you an idea what a one-man show is, I tell them Chaz Palminteri did A Bronx Tale, which, you know, he had great success with it. It became a movie after that. That Robert De Niro had his directorial debut in A Bronx Tale, the first movie. And John Leguizamo did Freak. So John was from Woodside, Roosevelt. And I'm not comparing myself to these great actors, but I did The Shoemaker's Son. The Shoemaker's Son, based on a true story of a Greek immigrant family coming to the United States, the challenges that I went through with drugs and going to prison and all that. So, you know, and then being, you know, having a crush on a little girl that later on, you know, she dies of cancer. So I did all the characters, obviously, and, you know, it was a great feeling for me to have this theater filled, packed. You know, twice I did 2 shows, and there is a possibility of a 3rd show, but I'm not sure what. But when the time is right, it will come back to stage again. But yeah, that was one of my dreams, to perform my life story.
It was an excellent performance,
Thank
very
you.
good directing as well. And
Michael Richard Williams was the director. George Fuaxis was one of the producers. Michael Rockwitz, he did all the sounds. Alex, like we said before, he did the lighting. You were the DP on the job. You know, a lot of people came and supported, and you know, I'm really happy and proud of this production.
looking forward, Greg, what do you plan to do? Do you plan to continue acting, do stand-up comedies? Do you want to expand into some other areas?
Well, right now, at the current moment, I'm writing a lot, and I just got offered to write a feature film of a very well-known movie in Greece. And we are 60 pages in, me and George Fuaxis. My partner, obviously, he's part of, Hardwired Films, and I'm Stretch Productions. And I'm going to Greece to meet with the executive producer. We're not at liberty to discuss exactly what it's about, but Adoni Patalias, he's the producer, and he's worked with Bollywood in the past. So we are in full motion right now, writing a feature that I'm going to be starring in as well. And from what I spoke to him, there will be a couple of A-list actors, which I'm super excited about this. What the future holds for Greg Kritikos is more comedy, Greek comedy. I want to perform in Greece. I've been blessed. I recently met a beautiful young lady. She has a son. I've been by myself for a while. My last girlfriend was like 2.5 years ago, and I kind of put my head in the sand, and I see guys like you. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
On your newborn. Your wife's pregnant. So there was a part of my life that, I was feeling that I was missing something. So now I finally feel like I've met the right person, and we're going to grow together. And her name is Eliana. She speaks Greek, and she lived in Greece. So we're always laughing and talking in Greek. So now this is kind of helping me with my Greek. She has a wonderful little boy. His name is Elias. Brilliant little kid, likes to sing. So I feel like sometimes things happen in life, whether it's a higher power, I really believe in God and all that. And now I'm working on writing more, speaking more Greek fluently, because I want to do stand-up. No sit down or lay down, stand up in Greece. That's my goal. Write, produce more movies, obviously. I'm in productions with other people as well. Stanley Kubrick was one of the greatest directors. He had a very young intern that was working with him, and now this intern by the name of Ante Novakovic, I met him. He's the director, and him and I have spoken. He wants to put me in a couple of his productions. He was also part of Eyes Wide Shut. So not only am I working on my own productions that I've written, produced, but I'm also getting hired to do other stuff as well. So that's the plan. The immediate plan is to continue doing stand-up, write more material, produce the stories, especially stories from Astoria. We have a couple of movies on standby right now that we're hoping to get picked up for funding. So if you're out there and you want to invest in a movie, let me know. I have a script called Crooked, which is another great story that we have. So we have a lot of stuff going on. But making people laugh, Yanni, making people laugh, and hopefully have the ability to change people's lives. That's the ultimate goal for me. If I can change an alcoholic addict, somebody's life, that way they could start living their life, that's the ultimate dream for me, because I truly believe, it is our darkest moments in life that will truly make us shine brightest on our path. And I wanted to mention also, in Scarred Angels, we have Chrisa Petridou and Angela Foskolos, 2 Greek actresses that you're editing every day.
So you work with Greek-American actors, American actors,
Absolutely.
and everybody?
Absolutely, yes, but it gives me pleasure, and I think you notice, I like to give actors opportunities to act. So when they contact me, I don't write, well, let me see your IMDb credit. Let me see your reel. Some people are unfortunate, they don't have reels. So in a Greg Kritikos production, which is Stretch Productions, I will always give an actor an opportunity to come and audition. Just because you don't have the proper credits doesn't necessarily mean that you're, cut out from a production. I love raw talent. I didn't go to school for all this. I've taken a couple of classes, but they call me a natural. I feel comfortable in my skin, in front of the camera, like I told you this earlier. So there are other people out there that need a little opportunity. Now, I'm not saying that I'm gonna make them famous, but I have no problem giving people opportunities to act, a legitimate audition and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's what it's all about. It brings a lot of joy to me to put comedians on stage and to give actors opportunities to be in front of the camera.
Thank you for watching, everybody. This was the interview of Greg Kritikos, a very good friend. We also work together. We have
Multiple productions.
We'll have multiple productions ahead, and we will be meeting again. Greg, along the way, you're going to present your works. You can present your works, doing interviews and everything.
Absolutely.
And
thank you for having me.
And thank you for watching.